Good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone with mobile telephones, I will ask you to turn them off or place them on silent now. Thank you.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We could live for 1,000 years, but if I hurt you, I make wine from your tears. I told you that we could fly, 'cause we all have wings, but some of us don't know why. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never, ever tear us apart. You were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. You were standing, I was there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart.
Good morning, my name is Kate Tyler Webber, and my role here today is to help celebrate the life and pay tribute to the late Murray Gordon Duncan. On behalf of his wife Lisa and the family, I would like to welcome you all here today and say a big heartfelt thank you for your presence. The family would also like to acknowledge those who aren't able to be here today, but who are watching online. Although you can't physically be here, your online presence is very much appreciated by the family. Murray passed away on the 26th of April and left behind his loving wife, Lisa. And I'm very honoured to have had the privilege of marrying Lisa and Murray August last year. Marriages at the time couldn't happen because of lockdown, and we fought very hard to make sure that it happened. It was on that day, their wedding day, that Murray chose me to be here today. so I'm very honoured. Murray was born to Patricia and Gordon, who are both deceased, and was one of 8 children. Roger, deceased, Alan, Marie, Brendan, Sonia, Shane and Danelle. Murray was also dad to Jodie, Luke, stepdad to Ashley, Sophie, Zoe, Lockie, and Poppy to Ryder and Levi. Can I now ask Sonia, Murray's sister, to come up and say a few words?
Kia ora and welcome. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but I'll give it a shot. Murray was born on the 18th of September. (1964), 57 years old. Where to start? We were born in New Zealand and came to Australia in 1971. I'm going to start that by saying, and that's to everybody in here, never leave distance between seeing your loved ones. We left nearly 20 years seeing Murray. And that 20 years, we can't take that back. Murray as a kid was funny, made you laugh, but always did dumb shit that got you into trouble, like so much trouble all the time. Our childhood wasn't great. It was very much like, if you've ever seen the movie Once We're Warriors, we were brought up really tough. But tough made us strong. And we got through all the shitty times together. Shane, Brendan, myself, Nellie, all of us got through it together. As a family, we were younger and we were very close, and I believe that's what gets us through the hard times, and it will get us through what's going on now. As Murray grew older, so did his anger and frustrations in and out of boys' homes, stealing cars, always doing dumb shit. But that was him. Life wasn't easy for Murray at times. He met Tony, had 2 children, but was very, very proud of his daughter Jodie. Used to talk about her all the time and her accomplishments. So I think that's one thing to take with you, Jodie. He was so proud of you. We lost contact with Murray after the passing of Mum, and we just really, I don't know, time just flies, and before you even know it, years have gone. But it was really, really lovely to be able to spend the last few months with him and make sure he was okay, even though he knew he was dying. I think I missed 100 million words in, but that was okay. On seeing Murray a few months ago, I noticed he had softened and mellowed. Still loud, always loud, but calm and at peace with life finally, and at peace within himself. He knew he was dying, but that didn't stop him from doing what he liked, because betting on horses and doing all the things that he loved to do. You could tell the one person that had changed him and made him feel loved, calm and appreciated was Lisa. You, Lisa, made him happy. And I haven't seen him in that happiness in his eyes for such a long time. I finally felt Murray had found love, happiness, and we as a family thank you for that. So Mook, from us here, we will see you again, not now, but one day. So now go be with Mum, Dad and Rog, and rest in peace. We love you and will forever be in our hearts, Aurora Cole, which means I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Can I ask Jodie, Murray's daughter, to come now?
My dad was a larger-than-life character who always had something to say. He was a strong and proud man who did life his way. When I thought about what I wanted to say about my dad, I decided I wanted to talk about what I loved the most, but I couldn't quite decide what my favourite thing was about him. Was it the way he could always make light of anything, because he could turn even the most mundane situation into an inappropriate joke, or the hardest moment in life into a witty pun? But that was also one of the things that made realising how ill he was so hard to accept or understand, because even on the days when he was in immeasurable pain, he was cracking jokes and making everyone around him laugh or smile. Was it the way my dad was so strong, maintaining an attitude to kick on with life regardless of what it threw at him, all the way up until the very end? Because of this, I've always lived with the motto, make the most of a bad situation, and I honestly believe most of what I've been able to achieve is due to this. Or was it his I don't give an F attitude? If you knew my dad, you'd know that he never cared about what people thought of him, whether it was people not liking his tattoos or playing his very inappropriate music at top volume. He just didn't care. Because of this, I learnt from a very early age that if people are genuinely interested in you or care about you, they'll accept you for who you are, and if not, then it was their loss. But finally I decided that the thing I loved most of all about my dad was the way that he loved me. Right until the end, my dad treated and spoke about me like I was perfect. I was his little girl who could do no wrong. So that is the thing that I'll forever miss the most, because no one will ever again love me like that. No one loves you the way a parent does, so blindly and unconditionally. There were so many things that I loved about my dad and that I will forever miss, but I will also be forever grateful that he was my dad and that I got to have him, even if it was for only a short amount of time. If I could go back to the start and choose my dad, I'd choose you every single time. I hope you're causing havoc up there, Dad, and that you know how very loved you are.
Thank you, Jodie. Can I ask Lisa, Murray's beautiful wife, to come now?
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I need my glasses. I'm getting tired. Phew. When Murray was planning his funeral, because that's what he did, he planned his funeral, and he did want, one of the things he wanted was he wanted me to get up and speak. And I don't think he realised how hard that was for all of us to do that. But he would have said, "You did a bloody top job there, love." That's what he would have said. Just want to thank everyone for coming today, because he would have been quite chuffed to have seen so many faces that people he loved and friends that he had a lot to do with. I can almost hear him say, "How neat is this, eh?" Although he seemed spontaneous at times, he always had visioned what the end goal was. He knew what that looked like. Even here today, this was all planned by him, right down to the dress that I'm wearing and the colour of my fingernails. This is exactly how he wanted it. He also told me I had to speak today, something I told him I'd struggle with. He assured me as a school teacher I'd be fine, because that's what school teachers do, right? The thing he missed out on hearing was the history of this beautiful place we're in today. When I was told it used to be a brothel, I almost heard his roaring laughter. We couldn't have planned a better venue. Murray was known by the names Mookie, Dad, Poppy, Muzz, Muzzer, and liked to call himself a Quasi, Kiwi-born, Aussie-bred. I'm fairly certain that he was called many other names, mostly under people's breath. Sonia had spoken about the child and the man that Murray was known as, and for, most of his life. The weight of trauma and adversity for which he'd suffered stayed with him for most of his life. Jodie captured and reflected beautifully on how those years had shaped him as a person. And although a hard man, he could show love and affection. When I think about Murray, I feel blessed. I feel I am so lucky to have crossed paths with him in his last few years here earthside. The time when he was able to lay his cards on the table, warts and all. I'd often remind him the past is behind us for a reason. We all have one, and that's who we stand as today is what matters. Most women my age have usually grown up immersed in fairy tales, happily ever afters, and princesses waiting for their handsome prince in shining armour to arrive with the sounds of birds tweeting and chirping. Mine happened to arrive in a GTS, heavily tattooed, long hair, listening to Pink singing some song that sounded like the F word in every other sentence. The first time I heard his name was just after our first round of COVID lockdown. I think everyone was enjoying their freedom at the time. My kids and I would go up to the doilo every other night for dinner, spend the money that we'd saved during the lockdown by having fun on the pokies and the raffles. Murray seemed to have a similar idea. He was the person at the club that everyone knew. He became part of the furniture. His personality was larger than life, particularly when he won a prize in the raffle, or most certainly when he scored himself a major on the pokies. That's when my daughter and I named him Bloody Murray. For the most part, you could hear him before you saw him. We always knew he was around because of this. I remember glancing over where he was sitting one day at the raffle, and he looked at me dead in the eye, gave me a cheeky wink, and flashed his cheesy grin. I thought, you weirdo. After the raffle, he had come up to my daughter and I and started randomly chatting about Lord knows what. To be honest, I didn't take much interest at all. Over the coming weeks, he seemed to find us, or me when I was by myself, and just butt into my personal space and be rattling off whatever came into his head. But that was Murray. The first time he actually sparked my attention was when he blurted out one day, "So, you're single?" I remember looking at him thinking, gee, you have front, mate. My daughter said, "No, I have a boyfriend." He replied, "I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to your mum." It made me laugh looking at his cheeky grin. Pretty sure my response was "Nunya." He thought that was hysterical. If you've ever heard him laugh, you'll know what I mean. From then on, we made small talk. That was until one day he took my raffle tickets off my table, forcing me to sit with him. I literally did not know what to do. It was the case of give up my potential winning numbers or sit with someone who is most likely going to do my head in with his Academy Award performance when his number get called out. He was the most loud, obnoxious and politically incorrect person I'd ever met. So I got up and sat with him. This was part of his plan to woo me. Quite often we would sit and chat. Most of the time I was reminding him that we were in a club or other public place and that his volume was a little high. He said he didn't care if people were offended by him. He reckoned if they were, they were just soft. It's funny how two quite different people can be so similar. We had more in common than what I realised, especially our love for Turkish delight. I remember one day he told me that he was almost going to give up on me. I asked him why. He said, "Well, for a school teacher, you're pretty dumb." I was trying to pick you up. I told him maybe he needed to work on the whole delivery part of his pickup lines. But I guess he didn't do too bad because I was still there. That was one thing about Murray. He had this knack for being able to cast a spell over people. Not everyone, just us lucky ones. He was brutally honest, had no filter, no inner monologue at all. He was cautious of people and could have them worked out well before anyone else. He only let certain people into his space, and if he called you a friend, then he absolutely meant it. He was genuine, the real deal. What you saw was what you got. It was no skin off his nose either way. Murray was pretty confident and cocky. He said to me, randomly as usual, that within 2 weeks he would have me hook, line and sunk. I'm pretty good at deciphering colloquial language, but I was not entirely sure what he meant by this. He told me that he meant he was going to get me to fall in love with him. Now, those who know me will understand why I thought that was the most outrageous thing I'd ever heard, especially from this little leprechaun man. I was wrong again. He liked being right, and he mostly was. From then on, we were inseparable. We did not leave each other's side, and to this day, the only time away was his short hospital stints, and now. This time's been the longest. We were that old couple that grossed young people out with our display of affection. Two people who still thought they were 19-year-old love-struck teens. He taught me how to feel and accept real love. Our competition of who would be the last to say I love you each day continued throughout the course of the day by phone and text. But I'll let him win today. On my 50th birthday, he proposed to me. I was a bit hesitant. Then he asked me what I was waiting for. He said, at our ages, we just know. His thing was, when you know, you know. And he said he knew. And I did too. I was that kid who believed in ever afters. And it was finally here. Life, in his words, was grandiose, baby. Then a pain started to get to him. And by June, our world was turned upside down and inside out. We were told the cancer he had was inoperable. He was given 11 months. All our future hopes and dreams of growing old together just went up in smoke. We discussed how the universe was such an arse for allowing us to find each other, only to tear us apart in such a cruel way. We were soulmates. He was the yin to my yang. One thing the universe didn't bank on is that it was dealing with two really stubborn people with a never say die attitude. Murray saw this as a challenge accepted. It was tough to see someone you love go through such a torturous pain as Murray did, but he was a tough guy, and he was the toughest man I'd ever met. Every setback and every new diagnosis was met with a lot of swear words and further strength. He never gave up. That wasn't his style. He never had before and wasn't about to now. Even when the pain was too unbearable, he still wanted to live his best life, and he still managed to make me feel like a princess every day. He had a bucket list, and getting married was on it. Kate coordinated and made our dream happen right smack bang in the middle of lockdown. Something Murray will always be grateful to her for. We just didn't know how long he had. There were lots of ticks on his bucket list: star casino, eating out at fancy restaurants, eating fancy cheese, buying a Mustang, the list goes on. The most important thing on his bucket list was reconnecting and spending more time with friends and family. This he did achieve, and this gave him comfort. I think the biggest section to tick off on his list was making peace with himself. What that meant was coming to terms with all the not so great things he'd done in life, but realising some of those things were out of his control, being the control freak he was. And understanding that when survival mode kicks in, we do what we need to do in order to get through the day. He just hoped God felt the same way. Pink put it perfectly when talking about her song Beautiful Trauma, which he thinks I only liked because of Channing Tatum, but it was on Murray's playlist. She said, I think life is really traumatic, but at the same time really beautiful, with beautiful people in it. And that's beautiful trauma. And this is certainly one way to describe Murray. Murray told me not too long after we met that he loved me before he even knew my name. I challenge a princess to say that happened to her. He was my every reason, my every hope and every dream I'd ever had. And no matter what the universe was throwing at us, every day I spent with him was the greatest day of my life. Murray was someone to each and every one of us here today. But for me, he will always be my ever after.
We are now going to pause the service and put some images up on the screen. You've each arrived here today carrying your own memories of Murray. What this does now gives you a chance to add some more memories to the ones that you arrived with today and leave with even a bigger picture of Murray's life. Thanks, Matt.
You ready?
Yep.
Let's crack it, baby.
You ready?
Yeah. Born ready, I was.
Went down to Santa Fe, where red wine puts the walls. Described it clearly, but the sky began to fall. Am I ever gonna see your face again? Am I ever gonna see your face again? Giant cars and taxis like the waxworks on the moon. Carry your girls past me, but none of them are you. Am I ever gonna see your face again? Am I ever gonna see your face again? Without you near me, I got no place to go. Wait at the bar, maybe you might show. Am I ever gonna see your face again? Am I ever gonna see your face again? I've got to stop these tears that's falling from my eyes. Go walk on in the rain so no one sees me cry. Am I ever gonna see your face again? Am I ever gonna see your face again? The memory that goes climbing through my brain. I get no answers, all the questions still remain. Am I ever gonna see your face again? 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 I wanna see your face
and sitting with Lisa to organise today. Murray had a whole playlist of songs that he wanted to have, but this song was picked by Jodie, and I love the story behind that, Jodie. That'd be something to share with everyone else. Jodie actually thought that they were the actual lyrics, is that right?
Yes, I did, and I started singing it that way, and everyone was like, oh my goodness.
Perfect. We're now going to give those who would like to an opportunity to come forward to sign the casket. It also gives you an opportunity to say your farewells and to say goodbye, to leave a little kiss or to say a prayer. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to sign? This now concludes our portion of today's service here in the chapel. We are now going to head over to Noraville Cemetery for the burial. Thank you, Matt.